I wanted to ask you about the accident that you had, because yeah, I know that was a big turning point in your life, and it was obviously a massive, uh, yeah, it was a, I don't know how I'd describe it, but it was obviously a massive turning point. It was a serious accident that happened, um, that had a lot of consequences, positive and negative, if you want to label them that way. But had a lot of consequences. It was a big turning point for you. Um, do you, would you like to tell the story of what happened?
Yeah, well,
Or
I can touch on it, and
touch on it?
these days, it was a very pivotal part of what I am today, uh, and I got to say, I've got an immense amount of gratitude now, being able to look back at what happened 5 years ago, and what I've been doing these past 5 years post accident to maintain how this vessel is in the world through what happened. And it was right at that moment of the accident, there was a lot of chaos in my world. And yeah, the accident gave me an opportunity to be basically flashed over to the other side of the afterworld. uh, I had a near death experience. I had a massive clarity in the fragility of life. And if it wasn't for my practices and the grains of sand that I had contributed to my life through my curiosity from the back end of, losing my mother, and a lot of really hectic times leading up to the accident, I had doubled down on meditation. I doubled down on my physical practice through yoga. Uh, I'd reduced the amount of things I had in my world.
That pre-accident, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
pre-accident.
pre-accident.
Yeah, I was teaching yoga in Byron Bay. I had had a really good trajectory for shifting out of trades-based uh, world. Uh, I'd seen that something wasn't in alignment with me, and I could see I'd lost, several mates to suicide, and I had made a massive decision to be different, to change that program, and to change the way that I was experiencing the world. And I had come over to WA uh, to advance that, to advance my experience of all these different practices: meditation, yoga, shamanic, the curiosity that I had for elements outside of what society presents to us. It drew me over here. And little did I know through that curiosity that it was delivering me to the most intense experience of my life. And to give context to what we're talking about, I got over to WA, and my personal experience took a left turn, and I was left over here with no family, ambitions, and everything that I come over here to do. It spun on a dime through a I lost one of my close in a circle to suicide on the way over to WA, and it kind of unhinged me. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting to hit that news, and it kind of put me into a little bit of a downward spiral, and it it shook up my world. And at that point, things kind of went different ways. Relationship I was in at that stage, it was just not founded in amongst me trying to find myself in amongst losing a close mate. And yeah, so I needed to get back over east, and my goal was just like, well, I'm not established yet in the in the music world, the yogic world, the shamanic, everywhere where I was heading, I wasn't completely established. So I thought, I've got to go get a job. So through mates of mates in the yoga community, I ended up getting a job. And this job was really good. It was a really simple job where I just did what I had to do with skills from the farm and driving machinery and just good, solid physical man labor, and I was thoroughly enjoying it. And I ended up getting crushed by a large piece of machinery. And yeah, at that very moment that happened, flashed over to the afterworld quite profoundly. It's I can never forget it, and I will never forget it. I'll never forget the feeling of the afterworld, this infinite foreverness that's for us all to experience. It's an immense amount of love and continuum that really changed my perspective on what this physical experience is all about. And with that flash over and then suddenly back into my physical form, I was drawn on absolutely everything that I had in my toolkit. I had been in emergency services. I spent a few years in emergency services, cutting people out of cars and land searches and vertical rescue. And I had this background of understanding how the physical form reacts to accident. And that was in the back of my mind. And the other thing I had in the back of my mind was this ability to self-regulate my breath and self-regulate my reactivity in my body to not get anxious.
This is why you're unconscious, or partly conscious?
No, I didn't go unconscious.
You didn't go unconscious?
No, I flashed out for a moment, like with the intensity.
So you're always conscious the whole time?
I wasn't conscious the whole time.
You're conscious of being somewhere different?
Yeah, it was a fleeting flick over into the other world. And bizarrely all caught on camera. And then when I fell out of this machine, I fell out of where this incident happened. I'm laying on the ground with no breath in my body whatsoever. And I was in this transition space. It was like, wow, that's what death is. That's the afterworld. Like, that's a pretty cool place. And I found myself sitting in my body going, well, I'm here. I wasn't breathing. I was just sitting in this neutral, the zero zone. And then all this stuff rushed back to me. It's like, I'm back here. I'm in this body. Let's go at it. I don't want to, I know that's forever. I know that experience is forever, but I want back in. I want back in. I really now cherish this human experience, and I want to feel it at its fullest. And that meant engaging very deep, calm breath, taking each moment as it come, trying to regulate my body so I didn't go into shock, because I knew that I was in a pretty bad place. I knew that I physically was in a bad place. Spiritually, I was in an amazing place. Mentally, I was drawing off that spiritual strength. Mentally, I was also drawing off the physical experience of emergency services and hanging around a lot of pretty chaotic experiences. So fast forward through it, I was fighting for my life. I had shattered pelvis, 2 broken legs, I had torn liver, category 4, torn liver, internal bleeding, pulmonary embolism, right on the edge.
Yeah.
And I knew it, and everyone around me knew it. It was a.
So you never lost consciousness all the way through?
No,
it kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty full on. And the ambulance trip to, it was different. The guys, I basically did the run through of an incident with the ambos when they turned up, and I told them what was going on. And all the people around were a bit spun out that I took control of the scene. I did what I do and what I'd learned in the emergency services. I took control of the scene because I knew how fragile my physical experience was, and I wanted to really kind of make sure that people had my back. You know, they knew that I'm here and I'm fighting for this. So yeah, it was whew, yeah, it was. I'm proud of all that I had learned, you know, that would enable me to get a second chance at life. And yeah, so that experience encapsulated it. I look at things a lot differently these days, and you know, I draw upon uh, a lot of those things, and I really honor all these practices. It's the the spiritual teachings and all these things that I'd learned. I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't engaged at the depth I engaged in these practices, and I'm so grateful for it. I just I feel like I'm contained a lot of the time, and I want to spread it to the world. You know, I want to say, come on, you got one chance at this. You know, you got one chance at this human experience. Like, come on, raise the bar. Let's really make of it. You know, like, and it's not through doing more. It's through being more,
experiencing more.
It's being more.
Being more.
It's smelling the roses stuff. It's what you witness in kids. More of that, you know, and it has its push and pull. You know, this world has its push and pull, and I find it very, you know, it's been very jarring. There's not many people that I've been around that have experienced near-death experiences.
You don't you haven't come across others?
Yeah, I have, but you know, it's really bizarre.
What's that?
It's just an acknowledgement, because you know, and when you sit with someone that's had a near-death experience, you know that two people that have near-death experience, there's not many words that need exchanging.
Huh.
Like,
so a little nod.
It's just, I get you. I get this. You know, there's a deep knowing and a deep feeling that you know what you know, and yeah. So it is an anomaly in this world, you know, and yeah, I'm very grateful for the experience. I look back on it now, and I'm quite proud of how I handled it. And I'm quite proud of the man I am today because of it, you know. And yeah, I just you know, anyone curious that really starts to ask questions, you know, I pull back. You know, a lot of my practice these days is I'm trying to say I'm really containing that energy of that infinite experience. So, yeah, I guess on the back of that too, straight away, I want to say thank you. And I'm gonna name. Can I name a person we know in common?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Tash Kelly. Like, I knew her before the accident, and I knew you before the accident. And I think there's a few others that from Tash, you know, and her network and how she is in the world. Yeah, when I come out, Tash was at my bedside. Yeah, she did a lot for me. You know, she might not realize it, but, you know, turning up, hand on the foot, you know, just turning up with an apple, turning up with seaweed, really bizarre experience, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like really simple acts of integrity showed me how important it is to really acknowledge the simplicity of the connection. And, you know, fast forward 3 months, she found me a place to stay. You know, she rallied around, got you, and And, we moved beds, and, I really, that time and that gesture, because, I didn't really deeply know you. I knew you as an associate, of Tash, and like the community and how the community rallied around me just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Something quite special about, I think, moving to Freo and having becoming part of this community here. I've not experienced this elsewhere in Perth. It's different.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique.
Very unique. Yeah. It's good to hear that, because, sometimes it can be complacent about that, but it is a wonderful community.
Yeah. And the support that I received, and I'll say again, I got a jar of salt given to me. One of the best gifts.
Huh.
And even reversing back, I'd actually like to share a little story within the hospital, and it's one of the practices that I have pretty much every day. Deep in the, I was between surgeries, and I dropped into this mental meditation. There was so much chaos happening in the hospital, and I was in a ward with two. There's me and another guy, and this other guy was quite vocal. He was in a lot of pain, a lot of distress, and quite demanding, and a little bit edgy on abusive towards the nurses. And I was just wholly focused on my next breath, and I had one of the nurses come up to me, and she goes, "Where's your head?" And I just like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Like, you're pretty calm, and thank you." She said, "Where's your head? What's happening inside your head?" I said, "Oh, good question. I'm actually sitting on South Beach. I'm sitting with my didgeridoo in front of me. I've got a chai beside me, and I'm watching the sun set down over the water."
Oh, wow.
And that was my sanctuary. That was my little world that I had encapsulated to go to. With all of what was going on, an immense amount of pain. It was a full on experience, and she goes, "Wow, okay, thank you." She goes, "Thank you so much for just keep doing what you're doing. Please keep doing what you're doing." And then a day later, or whatever time passed, she turned up, walked in with a chai.
Oh, who? The hospital,
The nurse sat it down beside me. She goes, "Look, I'm not sure whether you can have this, but no, I see what you're doing."
Oh, wow.
The best medicine I've ever received.
Kindness, eh? Wow. Yeah.
Huge. And it was a fork in the road for me. The moment that she gestured that, I could feel myself wanting to head down the victim path. I could see myself being lured towards this guy's to the world that was in the other bed next to me. But I could also sense that this is an opportunity for me to rise above what I don't want to see in the world. Very pivotal fork in the road.
Oh.
And that chai, give me the hope of becoming my own reference and being my own hero, and acknowledging that I've got this. It's going to be okay. People can see that I'm working hard. People can see that I've got drive to be here. And every time I go out, and it's every day, I pretty much go out every day. I go out to a cafe, and I get a chai. And every time I sit down with that chai, I'm in that moment, and I acknowledge that moment, and I drink to that.
You go back to the hospital or back to the beach? or the hospital
to the hospital, to that
and the
moment,
beach.
to the aspect of being on the beach at the same time. It's been in full chaos and full bliss. Been in both realms at the same time. It just gives me such a reminder and reference to the power of humanity, and that my simplest of gesture, it's like walking down the street. I come out with that energy going, oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the gold hearts in people, and giving a smile to someone and acknowledging someone in passing. It's like pulling $100 note out of your back pocket and handing it to them. It gives them an upward spiral. I know what it does for me when someone acknowledges and gestures. Hey fella, g'day, good morning. Hey, what's going on in your world? It's taking these moments and it's taking that. It's literally the chai is the antidote, and the.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a story, Chad. That's a story. And I just want to go back to Tash and part angel.
Oh yeah. Yeah, good woman. Very, very good woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know it. I know it.
I mean, there's something divine here. I think we can both feel that right now.
Yeah.
That is, it's the touch of divinity.
Yeah. Yeah. A very deep humanness.
And
a reality, a reality in nurturing sense. We're blessed. We're blessed to have these references in our world, and Tasha's been a huge reference. Good soul, good solid soul. And you just don't know how you're going to affect someone.
No.
And it's a duty, it's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to embody these things. To acknowledge those that raise our vibration, that help us to be closer to ourselves and closer to our uniqueness of this human experience. And she's good at it.
Yeah,
and you too, and acknowledging that too. There's like people tend to gravitate, and sadly, she's not in amongst our physical community, but gosh, she's a powerful reference.
I'm glad you brought her up and reminded me. She's a very special person. I think she's touched a lot of lives, and logic is most definitely not at the center of her reality.
No. And thank you.
And it's a different kind of logic. It's a logic from a different place. And she touches lives. She's an example of a person that touches lives.
So ever so grateful.
This experience that you've described, I know a lot of people that are very afraid of death. And I understand that, there's a sort of sense of the worst horrors in what that might be like not to exist anymore. yeah, it's a fascinating death. I've been fascinated with for, well, a long time. I think it is a fascinating part of life, I guess. And something, yeah, I would, yeah, I kind of, I think there's a part of me that would like longs to have more discussions around that, because it is such a clearly a fascinating part. And I know it's not a part that our culture particularly likes to really have much to do with.
Swept, swept away.
That's not, yeah. So I'm glad that, yeah, you could share your experience of what that was like to go in a conscious way to that point where it sounds like there's a few forks in the road where there was a choice to, yeah, or the experience of some bliss, and then the choice to come back.
Yeah.
Um, and it's from an outsider's point of view, it's been interesting. Well, very, yeah, it's quite clear to me that something, yeah, very deep happened to you through that experience, having had some interaction with you before, not a lot, but you know, we'd hung out on a couple of occasions and played some music together. But yeah, just to watch how that's sort of unfolded for you, and the life that you've now built up around yourself. You know, I was very honoured to be, yeah, to photograph your wedding to your wife that you met after the accident. You're now married,
Yeah.
and you now have a daughter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Whole different thing.
It is. It delivered me.
Mm.
It delivered me. And yeah, I just suddenly realized that the world has a lot more to offer than everything we talked about previously. You know, there's a there's a deepness. There's a pulse. There's a pulse in humanity that is beautifully there. You know, it's right there for us to. It's right there for us to hold. You know, and again, I'm grateful for how my world has come about. You know, and I've chosen to make lemonade out of the lemons that were delivered. You know, and I probably needed it. I needed that reality check. You know, and I can say that with confidence in hindsight. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone to go through what I went through. But would I change anything? Would I live this life over again? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go through everything I've gone through, because I realized it's my life to live. It's my world is my world, and you know, the fear. You know, my parents had a funeral director's business. You know, I grew up around death.
Oh wow. Okay.
You know, I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm where, you know, so death to me, and the experience of death was kind of secondary, if that makes sense, and a very on a level of acceptance. You know, kind of I've been around a lot of death. I've been around a lot of death, and I've been around a lot of celebration of that death as well, in a very different perspective, honoring people. And so that fear that runs through people completely disappears with the birth of a child. Yeah, there's so much more to honor, because in full acceptance, every living moment is a death to the life that's been born. You know, every constant change is a death of something moving into a constant change of growth. You know, it is an endless cycle that will not stop for anything. And our acceptance of that perpetual movement of time, the death and rebirth of everything. In honouring that, you start to understand that it is the gesture of life that we're here to live. We're here to experience life.
Mm.
We're here to experience the upward vibration of that, the celebration of life, the fun stuff. The butterfly cracking out of the cocoon. There's so much richness in the human experience through connection, through all of what we are to sustain this life force of survival. With love, we thrive.
Mm.
We really, truly thrive. We come out. Fear is survival. Love is thrival, if that's a word to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not something to fear. And I know it can be quite jarring to hear those words, but I really am, the excitement that happened from that, to know that I had a second chance, it really put wind under my wings, and then started to see life with a glow, like an absolute glow. Sunsets and gentle breezes and nuances of things. The simple things just started to become so exciting.
Do you think that's what happens when you let something die? It's like you let the past die, and then you're able to see. It's like it's probably glowing all the time, but you don't perceive. Maybe you didn't perceive it that way before, and it's like when you have that death, it's like a big clean out, a massive clean out.
Yeah, why? We hold on to so much that's of our past.
Mm.
We're bound. We're bound
not letting things die.
Yeah, no,
I don't want it to die.
And it's the back to Michael Singer. It's the surrender experience. It's the ability to let go and trust the featherbed. There's a feeling of leaning, being on the edge of something fearful. And it might feel like a cliff to people. There's a trust that has to happen, of leaning forward and trusting. You lean forward on the edge of that cliff, and then suddenly you have this experience where you're held, your wings are open and you're flying. And it's really hard. I talk in a lot of metaphors, as I said before. It's like trying to describe a kaleidoscope to a blind man, and it's in my reference. It's my world.
Yeah. It's an experience that you can't describe. So and that's the hard thing when you're trying to learn these things, is it's kind of, you hear someone else's experience and then try and reach for that, and that's not it. It's like, you just got to go and get it for yourself. You got to have it for yourself. It won't make sense until that point.
It won't make sense right till that moment. And I've helped several people in pretty dire situations, cancers, and just like I've been around that, and I have been for years. Been around people passing, and there's a real peace. There's a real peace that comes for people, and you'll never know it until you're right there. And that's the fear that bubbles inside of us, is the unknown. It's the way how our mind portray, it's the way our mind has, through the filters of experience of everything that we are, that's the reactivity.
I'm tempted to probably start moving towards wrapping up. I feel like we've captured. I think we've been on a bit of a journey.
Yeah.
Feel like we've been on a journey.
Yeah, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, as I listen to that, I mean, it's really quite an honor to just sit here and be the recipient of this experience firsthand that you've had. Yeah, I'm actually super comfortable going into that space of really like listening deeply. I really enjoy that experience and feel like that's where I've kind of just been for the last however long.
Yeah,
And that's great. I'm more than happy with that. Like I don't, yeah. Sometimes for me, the less words, the better.
yeah,
I
and
know
it is.
sometimes we need the words, but yeah, I'm happy to just receive and hear and experience the experience through you, through your words. And yeah, I'm curious to see how that translates to what we've captured here on camera.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I kind of forgot
yeah, I
about
mean,
it.
that's good that we've just like the cameras kind of fall into the background there, and
Yeah,
I think we've been quite in. I feel like I've been on a little bit of a journey here with
yeah. It's like,
going
well,
through all
hope,
this.
hope everyone's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Hope you're all okay. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, but no, yeah, I think we could probably move towards wrapping up.
Well, thank you for the platform of the trust in putting me in the hot seat. And yeah, I value who you are, and I see what you're doing in the world, and that's good. It's nice to have that reference around. It's like a an essence of Tash, in that overall intention. So
hmm,
thank you so much for trusting and bringing me on and
yeah,
doing what you do.
pleasure. Running an experiment.
Yeah. It's
The
nothing's ventured,
experiment
nothing's
of
gained.
life.
Lean
Is that
in,
what we call it?
lean into life, lean in.
Lean in,
You're
see what
doing it.
happens.
You're doing it.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you, Chad. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And yeah, all right, we'll wrap her up. Let's breathe out.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.